Good morning, I'm Katie Montgomery Mears, and I am glad to be with you for today's In It Together devotional. So about a month or 6 weeks ago, our daughter Mary Holland was running on the driveway, and I bet you can guess where this is going. She tripped and she fell and she hit her forehead, and you know how headwinds are. All of a sudden there was just gushes of blood going everywhere, and we couldn't tell what had happened. So we brought her inside and we wiped it down and we looked at it, and we realized really quickly this was a wound that was going to need stitches. So we put a little mask on her and we bundled her up and we took her to the hospital, and we had a fantastic doctor who was so kind, and he could see how scared she was. And so when he pulled out the betadine solution that he was going to use to clean her head, he actually handed her a swab and let her paint all over his arm, and then he stitched her up, and then he gave Whitney and I a million instructions. He gave us instructions for what to do in the first 24 hours to take care of it and what to do over the next couple of days. We had to use multiple types of cream and ointment and alternate them out. And then after 10 days, we had to come back and get the stitches out. And then we started a new round of different creams and ointments. And then we always had to keep sunscreen on it when she was going to be outside to protect it. And the list was just endless of the things that we had to do to make sure that that wound healed correctly. It just reminds me so much of the way that God promises to take care of us. Not just our physical wounds, but our spiritual and our emotional wounds as well. Just like we couldn't leave Mary Holland's head wound to just heal on its own, God doesn't leave us to heal on our own. In Psalm 147:3, it says, God binds up our wounds. God bandages our wounds and heals the brokenhearted. That word bandages and binds up, that doesn't just mean that God slaps something on it and lets it go and hopes it gets better. You know, the same way that we couldn't just put one layer of ointment on Mary Holland's head and hope that it got better. We had to tend to it constantly. And God tends to us constantly when we are wounded and when we are in pain. God is always there with us, helping us to get better. One of my girlfriends, I talked to her yesterday. She has had a hard year, just a year filled with tragedy. And then when we talked yesterday, she had a new tragedy, and it is just grief upon grief. And she said to me, I feel like my faith is on thin ice. I get it. When we are in deep pain, when we are struggling, when we feel like our heart has just been shattered and broken into a million pieces, we can't get over it on our own. We can't just grit our teeth and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and just decide that we're going to get over something and do it. God has to heal us. God has to be working in our lives to bring us healing and restoration. And fortunately, that is exactly what God does in Christ Jesus. Jesus says this in his first sermon. He actually repeats this promise from the Psalm and from Isaiah 61. He quotes this in Luke 4 when he's in Nazareth. He says, God has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. It is through Jesus that we find healing, but we have to open ourselves up to it. So often we are tempted to just slap a bandage on something, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual, and just go on about our way and hope that if we keep it covered up, that it will get better. We hope that if we take that pain that we experienced, whether it was a ton of years ago, early in our childhood, when we were young, or something that we experienced just recently, just maybe last week or yesterday, that if we just put a bandage on it and ignore it, that it'll get better. But that's not how it works. Things have to heal and be restored fully for us to be strong again. And God does that healing and that restoration. And so wherever you are, whether you have a pain that needs healing that's fresh or something that you're carrying around, whatever kind of broken heart that you're carrying, I hope that you will put it before Jesus. That healing may come in encouragement from a stranger. It may come in words from a friend. It may come in a moment of connection with God through prayer or when you're praising God. That healing may come in a really surprising way, but God is always working to bind us up and to hold us tight and to help restore us.